y'all, editing me here to welcome you to this video. If you haven't seen the first part or parts of this series, I recommend you go check them out. They will be linked in the video description, and eventually I'm going to be doing a big kind of all-in-one 4 or 5 hour big boy compilation video of all these videos in one go, kind of as they're supposed to be seen. But if you're watching in parts, like I say, it'd be a good idea if you check out the first part or parts first. I'll be releasing each new part, going over a different book over the next couple of days, weeks, that sort of thing. So it'd be great if you want to check that out before you watch this. But for now, thank you. I'll let you get back to this video. It's way better than this, and I'm far more put together than I am now, kind of. Okay, so book 5, The Fair, was actually my favourite book in the series. It had the most happening in terms of plot. Cora actually ended up being a pretty strong and great character, and honestly she spent the least amount of time with Simon in this book compared to all the others, which might be why I liked it best. I actually found myself not hating him as much for the first half of this book. He was pretty normal, he was okay, he seemed to get on with everyone, he wasn't that controlling, and I thought maybe the author had actually gone some way to actively trying to redeem him and make him act better. But then I realised that no, actually I think I just liked him more because he was unconscious for most of the first half of the book. What did annoy me in this book is that even though the last book showed that the ringmaster actually has a pretty sound reasoning for doing what he's doing, and that there should be no black and white, right and wrong, blah blah, in this book, just for no reason, she turned ringmaster into a complete villain for funsies, I guess. Up until this book, like I say, his reasons for everything he did were completely valid, and I felt like there was no real good guy or bad guy, and that kind of upped the tension a bit because there was no clear right or wrong. It was very much like real life, and I really enjoyed that, and I loved seeing the character struggle with this moral dilemma. However, this book decided to throw all that out and undo any character development that the ringmaster had had up to this point and make him a full-on villain with no redeeming qualities just because drama, I guess? It also annoyed me that Kathryn Ann Kingsley made the one and only Middle Eastern character in this entire book series, and the only character to ever mention Allah and religion and the fact that he's probably Muslim. He was the only one that she explicitly made a villain, and in this one she kind of painted him as, I would say there's an implication of like borderline terrorist, of like wanting to kill everyone for the greater good sort of thing. Do you see where I'm going with this? It made me uncomfortable. I felt it perpetuated some really harmful stereotypes, and I felt it was thoroughly unfair to the character who up to this point was pretty great, had some great points, had done some great stuff, was very, very caring, and who had very clear and understandable motives. And I'm not the only one who actually picked up on this. It turns out at least one other reviewer found the same thing. I found this review where someone said, would have loved this series and this book in particular if the author didn't make Turk, the villain, so blatantly Muslim. Like he was doing everything because he was righteous. Religion wasn't mentioned in this book except to explain Turk's actions and motivations. Saying things like prophet cursed them isn't accurate, and that saying doesn't even exist anyway. Anyway, it reeked of anti-Muslim sentiments and was extremely unnecessary to the storyline in my opinion. One of my favourite authors, but this left a bad taste in my mouth. I have to agree, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who saw it. It was very unnecessary and uncomfortable and just a bit of a mess. So we're going to quickly skim through a lot of the plot points in the first half of the book before we get on to analysing any of the Cora-Simon interactions, so bear with me, let's skim. I am getting exhausted at this point. Sorry, but I promise, we're close to the end, we're getting through this together. Gonna do it, aren't we, Cubes? She's been an angel, I love her. After Cora sort of but not quite kills Duncan, Turk, the ringmaster, gets a few of the muscly guys together from the fair and essentially arrests Cora and Simon and ties them up in his tent. By the rules of the fair, they should get a trial, but Ringmaster knows if they do that, then Cora will tell everyone what's happening, and he decides to say screw it and throw them in the tower, which contains the heart of the fair and in which no one but Ringmaster has any power anyway. He then tells the rest of the fair that Simon and Cora were plotting against him, which is true, but he doesn't say why or how or any of those things. Kind of a lie by omission, you know? Inside the tower, Simon is hung up by his ankles and like dangled from the ceiling, and he keeps throwing up and passing out and dying and waking up and dying and waking up over and over and over and over again. Meanwhile, Cora is flung into a pit, impaled on this giant statue, where she bleeds to death and then comes to life, and bleeds to death and comes to life, over and over and over and over and over. And obviously she can't free herself because she's impaled. Cora is saved by Simon's shadow, who, I quote, burns himself up, manifesting in a physical form so he can lift her off the statue she's impaled on. This bit annoyed me because it felt like a really poor plot choice to me, because if there's no magic or power in there except ringmasters, then why could Simon's shadow even go inside, never mind use magic to transform himself and manifest his power and all of that stuff? How does that work? There's also this bit before where real Simon and Shadow Simon are like chatting with Harrow Faire itself in a dream, and I thought this would be how they ended up saving Cora. Like, Simon would travel into someone else's dream and tell them what was going on, and they would come in and, like, save them all and stuff like that. Like, sending for help from Bertha or Rudy or someone. Because it's been established throughout this entire series that Simon has these powers. He can, like, manifest in people's dreams. Clearly, the tower isn't limiting this because him and Shadow can do their dream talking and Harrow Faire can do the dream talking. So why can't he talk to someone else in the fair? That would make more sense than this, because this came out of nowhere. But no, instead Cora is saved using this power that the Shadow apparently has that has never once been hinted at before, or like anything. In fact, it has been a point for the Shadow to like go on and on and on about how sad and lonely he is, like proper incel stuff. About, he hasn't touched anyone in 130-something years. Oh, I'm so lonely and sad, and touch me, Cora, touch me, and all that kind of thing. So the fact that now all of a sudden he can physically manifest, where has this come from? Why? But it's okay. Well, it's not okay. They kill him. It kills him. It burns him up. He uses all his energy. There's this whole dramatic, oh my god, I love you, Cora, and then he dies thing. Look at me, I'm finally doing something right. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, honestly, I hate both halves of Simon's character for different reasons, mostly because neither of them understand consent, and it really bothers me. Yeah, okay, I didn't care that the Shadow died. I'm gonna be honest. Call me heartless. No, I didn't care. But anyway, this Shadow lifts Cora off the statue she's impaled on, leaves her on the floor. She comes back to life, and then she opens up the heart of the fair, the literal heart of the fair, and she steps inside and joins a part of herself with another part of the fair. So now she's got more of its powers, but she's given up another part of herself, and she's like, who am I? But now she's more powerful than ever, and as powerful as Ringmaster, and she has these new powers, and she uses these magical powers to save Simon where he's hanging from the roof, and she's like, look, I can control shadows too now, woo, and yeah, okay, the powers are kind of cool, I'll say that, I like it. So yeah, she saves Simon, even though if it was me, I would have totally left him hanging, but there you go. And he's not overly awful in this interaction, I'll be honest, except in this one bit where he's almost self-aware, but no. He says, I spent all those years convinced I could not feel those things because I'd thrown them away. I spent all those years convinced I couldn't love because it would destroy me. Goodness, I really am a megalomaniac, aren't I? The family was right about me this whole time. I'm an egotistical madman. I suppose I should apologise to them. On second thoughts, no, they can rot. He snickered again. He couldn't help it. Lovely. And then here's where his character starts going downhill. Can we not just keep him unconscious? I liked him then. So they burst out the doors using Cora's super cool magical powers, which, like I say, I do kind of like and I'm jealous of. And I'm like, yeah, that was a good bit of the book. They did a little. Anyway, they go storming off and they find everyone else in the fair and they show them what did to them, because they're literally like disgusting. They are covered in blood. They're like, oh, look at my open wounds healing, covered in sweat. Simon's covered in vomit because he's been vomiting down himself and stuff. It's grim, wonderful, love it. Turns out at this point they've been strung up in the tower for like 3 weeks, which, let's be honest, is kind of the same length of time she was in the fair for before she was strung up, so there you go. And they do the big reveal. They're like, hey everyone, this is what's going on, blah blah blah. Turk's trying to kill you all. And everyone's shocked, and Cora's like, but I'm better than you, Turk. I'm not like you because I'm not deciding for everyone. We're gonna let the people vote. Democracy! And all that good stuff. And so they decide to have a vote on what's going to happen. And if Cora wins, then the fair is free. Turk can either hand over the key to her or she will kill him and take it. And anyone else who wants to go free can do, or they can stay, and the fair will start travelling around again and all this good stuff. And if Turk tries to double cross her, then Cora has these like cool magical shadow powers now and stuff like that, and she can overpower him and kill him anyway, especially if the majority of the family are on her side. But if he wins the vote and everyone's like, no, we'd rather the fair die, then she will let the fair die as they all wish. So all good. Great plan. Wonderful. What's wrong with that? So Cora and Simon go and get cleaned up, wash the blood off themselves and stuff. Cora has this big cry in the shower. Completely understandable. And Simon's actually sweet for like genuinely the first time the whole series, where he actually like just lets her cry and cleans the blood off her and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is quite nice. Maybe he's gonna end up a good character. No, he doesn't. He ruins it all. So Simon goes to visit Turk and make a little deal with him, and I think I should, for the sake of this analysis, spoil the big twist at the end of the book for you now, because I don't care. And I think Simon's motives are messed up anyway. So Simon, of course, doesn't trust Cora with anything ever. He doesn't like her plan, and he thinks Turk needs to die regardless of the outcome of the vote, and he thinks Amanda, who is Turk's wife, should also die and be punished, and he thinks Jack, the rigger, who is like on Turk's side, even though he just found out about this morning, he's like, yeah, actually, no, I agree with that. He thinks he deserves to be tortured and killed for siding with Turk too. Nice. So Simon goes to see Turk with the intention of double-crossing him later. And he tells him, I would like to make one thing very clear, Ringmaster. I am only out for my own ends. Now and forever. I come first in all things as far as I'm concerned. Then you'll understand why I'm here. I do not like to gamble with my life, fat man. I do not want to place my continued existence in the hands of anyone. Not you, not Harrow Faire, not even Cora. Funnily enough, I thoroughly actually believe this. I don't think he's lying here. I believe him. He says, the concept of a vote is a ridiculous insult to everything I have suffered to protect her and our combined interests. She should have killed you when she had the chance. But no, she wants to be noble. Simon scoffed. What a childish concept when it comes to things like us. How anyone can talk about their own partner like this is just beyond me. Like, calling her ideas ridiculous and childish. It's just a sign of an awful, unsupportive partner, and it's not nice. So the deal he tries to make with Turk is this. Keep Harrow Faire alive as long as I walk this earth. Keep it on the edge of starvation, I don't care. But let it limp along for however many years it takes for me to burn out and fade away. Then, do what you like. Turk shook his head. You're asking me to let this creature survive, to let it continue to live. For now. And what do I get in exchange? Cora Glass as a porcelain doll. Simon's smile split into a vicious grin, as she should have been from the very moment I saw her. So this is what he promises, but remember, he's not actually planning to kill her. He's just pretending to, although the reader doesn't know this yet. Although I think it says a lot about him that this is so easy to believe. I mean, he's tried to turn her into a doll already twice. Why wouldn't he do it a third time? So Turk agrees, but in return, Simon says he should get to turn Turk's wife, Amanda, into one of his puppets. One of his dolls. And for some reason, despite this point, Turk's whole thing being, I love my wife, he decides, yeah, okay, you can have her. Why are all the men in these books terrible? Why? Also, I find this absolutely horrible because, like, I get it. Simon thinks that Amanda needs to be punished, right? That's very clear. And he's trying to emotionally torture Turk by doing this. But Amanda, despite their differences, is Cora's friend. And Cora's very adamant that, like, whatever happens, even if she wins this vote, like, she's gonna keep Amanda alive. She's gonna look after her. It's all good. Like, Cora specifically said, I want her spared, and that she forgives her and all this stuff. So Simon just sneaking around behind her back to basically torture and kill one of her only friends. That's not very nice, you know? If a partner of mine killed one of my best friends for revenge, I wouldn't be with them anymore. They would be dumped without a second thought. Anyway, Cora doesn't know that Simon has turned Amanda into a doll, and she doesn't know that he is planning this, like, whole double cross thing, and that it seems like he's betraying her, but he's gonna turn out not to. Like, she doesn't know about any of this. So, later that night, they decide to get intimate again, because what is wrong with these books without a poorly written, dangerous sex scene? This time it is slightly different from the other times they've had sex, because for the first time in the entire series, Cora knows she actually has the power to physically stop Simon if she needs to. And this is all that keeps going through her head the entire time they have sex. On the one hand, it's interesting to see that the dynamic has changed, and it's nice to see that Cora isn't just completely vulnerable to him anymore and she isn't constantly in danger. But on the other, if I was with someone and my thoughts were constantly flicking back to these things, I don't think that's a good sign. She knew she could stop him if he got too rough. She knew she could get free. She could. The power that came with her link to Harrow Faire was right there, just at the edges of her mind. If she reached out, she could tear his limbs off. Still, the nagging truth hovered in the back of her mind. I can stop him, I can get free. Call me crazy, but if you're having to remind yourself of this so much while you're intimate with a partner, then surely you don't actually trust your partner. And that worries me and terrifies me a bit. Once again, there's a lot of her begging him to stop and him not. And I fail to see how this isn't just a mirror image of the Duncan rape scene. I really don't. Except the author makes it so that each no is followed with a wave of pleasure type line, which totally makes up for it, right? And this is such a dangerous way of presenting sex and consent in fiction. Physical responses to touch and sexual activity don't equal consent. Many actual victims of rape have physical responses. Male victims of rape can have erections even when they don't want it, and all victims of rape can sometimes orgasm during the assault. Physical responses like this do not mean there is consent. These can be involuntary actions. It's your body reacting to something that your mind doesn't want. Physical responses are not the same as giving consent. So when books like this show constant, repeated scenes of a woman repeatedly saying no and being ignored, but then it being okay because she shivers a bit, it's such a dangerous message to send. These next few scenes are incredibly hard to hear and read, but I think it's important to exemplify my points. Again, feel free to skip forward a bit if you need to. Thin strings, nearly invisible, snapped around her wrists and yanked them up over her head. She yelped in surprise. Simon! Shush, don't make me gag you. He flicked his wrist. Strings caught around her throat, her waist, her knees, her ankles, everywhere. She could do little more than whimper as they hefted her from the bed, suspending her a few inches over it, knees bent and spread wide. Simon, put me down this instant. What a glare, he laughed, flashing his best and most fiendish grin. Slowly he began to undo his tie. He was taking his time again, making her watch as he undressed, leaving her suspended over the bed like a plaything. She was writhing, squirming against the strings as much as she could. Simon, please. No, he kissed the inside of her thigh. I said you were going to pay. Did you think you weren't going to suffer? This is only the start of your penance. These blurred lines around consent really bothered me. And as I've said earlier in the video, I have absolutely no issues with BDSM or sex scenes when they're portrayed correctly and healthily. But honestly, it thoroughly bothered me to keep reading about a woman saying no over and over and over and being ignored by a man because he thinks he knows her and her body better than her. If a person says no, it means no. And then it gets worse. And again, this bit is hard to listen to, but I should clarify that the 5 years earlier, when she was raped by Duncan, it was anal rape. So obviously she has an extra layer of fear around that in particular. And so Simon decides that now they've known each other for a whole 2 months, even if half of that was spent unconscious in the tower, he deserves to be able to stick it up her bum. Trauma be damned. Because in his words, and this is sickening, do you think I'm ever going to let a man have a part of you that I also haven't shared in? So he literally ties her up with his strings, bends her over, and pours a bunch of lube on her and tells her to relax. He's doing it anyway. There's no discussion about if he's ready. He doesn't even tell her what he's going to do. He doesn't ask if she's comfortable, if she wants it, nothing. He just does this physically to her. And here's a tip for everyone watching, and this might sound crazy. This might be, I don't know, a little bit controversial, but how about before you stick any part of your body into anyone else's orifice, you ask first. It's not difficult. And this is obviously about control for him because he tells her, you're mine, Cora, every part of you, your heart, your body, your soul, mine. She's clearly not ready for it or into it, because when he pressed a finger to a part of her that was not where she was expecting, she jumped against the strings and struggled. She wailed, no, no, please. Shh. He leaned over her, swirling the tip of his oiled finger around that spot. I'm not Duncan. I'm sorry, but this is rape. She says no, she's begging you to stop, and you do it anyway. Rape. When he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, then we get, she shut her eyes tight and struggled to regain control of her breathing. This is a woman in the middle of a panic attack, clearly. She slowly let go of the sheets she was clenching in her fists. She nodded. Barely, but she did. Good. Now relax, will you? He sat back on his heels behind her. She did her best to do just that. She was shivering. I'm sorry, but this is not enthusiastic consent by any stretch of the imagination. This feels like coercion. 100%. This feels like a modern version of Lie Back and Think of England. You know, I don't see how a woman shivering, begging him to shop, eventually having to regain control of her breathing and try her best to let a man shove something inside her bum is sexy or romantic or ever got published. And then after this incredibly uncomfortable scene, where basically he full-on anally penetrates her several times over, and she's like, actually, I guess it does feel quite good, even if I didn't want it. The author has the audacity, again, to try and justify it by saying, and again, this feels so disrespectful to all rape and sexual assault victims. She thought when she let the puppeteer touch her, she was healed. She thought when she'd let him tie her up, she was healed. She thought when she'd killed Duncan, she was healed. Even now, it wasn't the act itself that was rewriting the damage that had been done to her. It was the fact that each deep thrust into her sent pleasure, not agony, crashing through her. It wasn't the bliss she reached time and time again as he sped up, working himself like a piston inside her eager body. It was the trust. Duncan had taken it from her, and Simon had given it back. That was why she loved him. If anyone ever asked her again why she loved Simon Waite, it was because he taught her how to trust someone with her heart again. I find this so hard to read, and it thoroughly bothers me. Back to the main plot, and Simon spends hours in his studio finishing and perfecting the doll of Cora, which I have some questions about. One, why did he keep it when it's surely got to be a reminder of how he tried to kill her twice? Unless he's using it as, well, he's keeping it as like insurance or a threat for the future if she doesn't do what he wants. Why is he keeping this doll if he supposedly loves her and wants to be with her? I don't get it. And two, if he's not actually going to go through with this plan to trap Cora, why is he spending so much time alone working on perfecting this doll? It's not like Turk or anyone would notice if she was half finished or not perfect. If he's not going to actually trap her, why is he doing this? He then goes to meet Cora for the vote, but not before immediately judging her for her choice in clothes and deciding for her what she needs to wear. Again, I know this is a small thing compared to everyone else, but it's just a thing that abusers often do, trying to control what women wear and picking out clothes for them and stuff like that. So it was another big red flag for me. And the response that Cora says to all of this is, it wasn't worth arguing about a damn coat. This is a woman who is so used to being abused, she's just accepted defeat at this point, and it is heartbreaking to read. So the fair votes, everyone votes, Cora wins, yay, everything is going to plan, this is brilliant. She should take the key from Ringmaster, done, brilliant, end of story. But no, Simon decides to still go through with his plan because I don't know why. Turk's like, no, I'm not accepting this. And Simon's like, lol bitch, snapping your neck now, Cora. And he snaps her neck. Obviously, she is completely angry when she wakes up, understandably so. And then this whole part is just bizarre to me. When I first read this, obviously I didn't know there was a twist. I didn't know he was going to double cross her, so I was like, oh my god, this is great. This is the perfect ending to the series. Showing that abusers never change, and warning women about the dangers of staying with abusers. I thought the author was playing a long game here, and she was going to teach a lesson at the end of this, and it was going to be great, and Simon's going to prove to be evil, and you can't trust him, and then Cora's going to fight back, and she's going to kill him, and it's going to be a happy ending in that way, and she's going to be on her own, and it's going to be brilliant, and I was really excited, and then no. They ruined it. It all had to disappoint me, like this entire series did. Time and time and time again. Let me read you some sections, and then we will discuss it. Won't we, Cuckoo Bean? Yes. Hello, little snoot. You little snooty snoot. You've been amazing today, and I love you. I've been filming for so long, and you're doing so well. Cora woke up tied to a chair. She couldn't see what was keeping her wrists bound to the armrests or her legs to the frame of the chair, but she knew precisely what was keeping her there. Simon's strings. A hand clamped over her mouth, a head was close to hers, whispering in her ear. Shush now, Cupcake. She clenched her fists. Instantly her darkness was there at her command, boiling just at the surface. She was going to rip him to smithereens. God, do I wish she had. She watched him flick his wrist just out of the corner of her eye, and something small, tight, and probably invisible cinched painfully around her throat. You're in my web, dear. One wrong move from you, one tiny bit of ink seeps into your eyes, meaning using her powers, and you'll finally learn what it's like to be killed by my strings. I don't need to keep you alive to rip out your deity. It's just more fun if I get to watch your eyes when it happens. Damn it! Damn him! I should have known. I'm such a fool. Every man I've ever loved has betrayed me, and I'm the common denominator. That bit broke my heart, because that is exactly how abused women feel, and it hurts like hell. Tears pricked her eyes. Her treachery stabbed at her like knives. She relaxed her hands and let the darkness simmer. The strings around her throat loosened enough that she could breathe. Now that's a good girl. She bit back a sob. Terror boiled up in her, and she jerked against the strings, holding her in place without meaning to. She let out a frightened whine. His strings instantly tightened, and she gagged in pain. He stroked her hair, and she tried her best to yank her head away from him. He tutted and walked in front of her, crouching down by her feet. Oh, now, don't be like that. You knew this was bound to happen. You know who I am. I've never been anything but honest with you. Just because you tell someone you're going to hurt them doesn't mean you're blameless when you hurt them. Yes, it could be bad. No, it doesn't. He stood and leaned over her, one hand on the back of the chair and the other around her throat. He tilted her head back to look up at him. His voice lowered into a husky growl. It was sexual, even as it was vicious. Do you love me, Cora? All that I am? Simon the puppeteer? The devil, the madman, the fiend, even now. Even as I'm about to rip out your deity and stuff it into a piece of artwork. Even after I betrayed you. She looked into those black, red, white eyes of his and knew she was a lost cause. She knew she deserved to die because she was too stupid to live. She whispered to him, unable to speak much louder than the rock in her throat. If I survive this, I'm going to beat you to death. I'm going to bash your head open on a rock. I'll do it 100 times if I have to. I'm a fool for not having seen this coming, but it doesn't change how I feel. She swallowed thickly. I'll always love you. This isn't romantic. This isn't beautiful. This is heartbreaking and sad, because this is how victims of abuse feel. This isn't glamorous and romantic and, oh my god, it's so sweet, it's the greatest love story ever. No, this is a heartbreaking reality that literally millions of people, mostly women, go through every day because they love their abusers and they feel like it's their fault. And they can't get away because they love them or they're tied to them or they're scared to leave. Women who do leave their abusers are the most likely to be killed. And it's horrific, and I can't believe people are sitting there romanticizing this situation like this. Simon chuckled and leaned his head in close to her. She turned away, and he kissed her cheek by her ear before whispering, Do you trust me, Cora? Do you really trust me? You said you did. Now I want to find out. And then he brings out Puppet Amanda, but there's so little of her left that she doesn't recognize the people who were her husband and friend. She doesn't recognize Turk. She doesn't recognize Cora. Cora's sad. Simon promises Amanda that you'll have a sister soon. And he tells her that he's also hung Jack up in the tower, and Jack's busy dying and being tortured and all this horrific stuff over and over and over. Cora's obviously incredibly angry. Who wouldn't be? And hurt. Who wouldn't be? And she somehow blames herself and calls herself a monster, bless her. And then Simon says, Kiss me one last time before I do what I've wanted to do since the moment I saw you. When she growled at him, he grinned. Please. You love me, don't you? God help her, she did. She hated him. She wanted to rip his face off. But she did, in fact, still love him. I'm a monster, just like they say. And then, oh my god, shock twist, it was all a game. He's not really gonna kill her, he's just testing her. What? I hate this. I hate this twist, I hate this plot point, I hate all of this. He broke the kiss slowly and moved his lips to her ear and whispered, "What I've wanted to do since the moment I saw you, Cupcake, is this." The strings around her loosened and were gone. "It's been to tell you that I love you." It is the biggest cliche. It's gross. He's an abuser. No. I hate this. Like, oh my god, he totally loves her. That makes him breaking her neck and making him think that making her think that he betrayed her all worth it, right? It's not worth it. This makes me angry and upset and I hate it. Ooh. If he loved her, he wouldn't have done all of this. He wouldn't have treated her this way throughout the whole 5 books. He wouldn't have attempted to rape her. He wouldn't have anally raped her. He wouldn't be torturing her friend Jack in her tower right now. He wouldn't have killed her friend Amanda and turned her into a doll. He wouldn't have done any of this. He wouldn't have broken her neck. Him saying that he loves her does not make up for any of this stuff, for any of the abuse. Anyway, long story short, Cora ends up killing Ringmaster. Amanda dies too, because there's like nothing left of her basically. Then Cora goes and frees Jack, and we end up in the same position we would have been if Simon didn't do all of this weird double-cross bluffing, pointless stuff. It's very annoying, so what was the point? Because, oh my god, Simon was testing her, of course, because that's the sign of a healthy relationship. Testing your partner. He just had to threaten her life to see if she really loved him, right? I know, Coop. What? I did it all for you, he coughed. Why are you mad at me? Cora laughed, a dark, sarcastic laugh. Oh, for me? Do tell. Explain how double-crossing me, betraying me, and playing that sick, fucked-up game was for me. I knew you would be too nice to exact revenge. They needed to pay for what they did. Amanda and Jack betrayed your friendship. Turk broke his own rules when he threw you in that pit. They needed to suffer, Cora. You're too sweet for that. And then a little later, Cora, I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I needed to learn the truth. She glared up at him. You didn't trust me? He frowned and looked out at the circus. Why would you love me? Why? You could have your pick of every available wretch in the family, and even then you could probably convince the unavailable ones. I'm a terrible man, Cora. I did those things to Turk, Amanda, and Jack because I wanted to, because I enjoy their suffering. I thought it was because you wanted revenge for both of us. That too. He sniffed dismissively and still kept his gaze out at the circus, but mostly because it was great fun. And then, I love you, Cora. I love you more than I love myself, and I have for a long time. Yeah, like 2 weeks. I just didn't know how to say the words. And if you decide I should die, that's your right. I betrayed you. I played a sick game. I'll probably do it again someday. He picked up her hand and kissed her palm before placing it to his cheek. He shut his eyes. Go on. Save yourself from the pain I'll keep causing you. Because I am what I am, Cora dear. I always will be this. I will always be the puppeteer. It's so needlessly dramatic. She replies with, I can't imagine my world without you. I love you. You know I do. And you need to stop trying so hard to prove that I don't. I know, I'm being dramatic, aren't I? I know. He kissed her knuckles and carefully put the roses down on the floor. Mwah! Well, if that's how you truly feel. He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Bless you. That is exactly how I feel. Why don't we make this day just a little more overwhelming for you? And then, because of course he does, he proceeds to propose. And that's basically the end of the book. Some people leave the fair, some people stay. Simon and Cora get married. Of course, she takes his name because he owns her, remember? The fair goes traveling, people are happy. Yay, happy ending, the end. The thing about her taking her name really annoyed me, because on the one hand, like, I get that some people want to change their name for marriage. That's fine, whatever. It's not something I'd ever do. I like my name, it's me. But in this, like, her name was so iconic throughout it, because, like, there's this whole thing of her being the contortionist, and it being like, she's the unbreakable Cora Glass, which is cool because it's like a play on the whole glass thing, and it's about her being strong and unbreakable. And, like, her name was a huge part of her identity and who she is and all that stuff. And then she just changes it to Wait. Cora Wait. Doesn't really have the same ring to it, does it? The unbreakable Cora Wait. The victim Cora Wait. The abused Cora Wait. Yeah, no. I really hated how the pinnacle of this story was Simon basically just being like, oh my god, I'm just testing you, babe, see if you really love me. And yeah, I'll probably do it again while abusing you and hurting you and probably raping you. I hate that. And I hate the whole, like, and it's only a real love story if the man proposes to the woman at the end. It's so traditional and heteronormative and, like, steeped in misogynistic gender roles. And hello, baby. Hi. Hi. It's just not really for me. But I'd have forgiven it if it was any other couple than this. Wouldn't I, baby? Hi. Give me a paw. Thank you very much. Oh, look at you. You're tall. You're so tall and beautiful. Kisses. Thank you. And also, I think the fact that he proposed after knowing her for like 2 months annoyed me as well. The timelines in this book are so messed up and weird and make no sense, and I hate it. Anyway, ultimately, this story annoyed me. It upset me, it disgusted me, it angered me, and it had horrific double standards for different characters, especially the men. It was offensive, it spread dangerous misinformation, and it was just a big, frustrating mess. And the more I read of it, like, the more times I've reread the books for this video and the more I talk about it, the angrier I get. Like, I think it just gets worse every single time. But remember, it's okay because they were, like, totally in love. But no, they weren't. I hate this. Remember, there are reviewers who say of this book, it was nice of Simon to remind everyone that despite his feelings for Cora, he's still very much a villain. I love that guy. I wouldn't change a thing about him, and I'm happy that Cora didn't even try. You can't make this stuff up, can you? These are real people writing these things. It's very alarming how much I adored Simon, and I kind of want one. I find that very unsettling. Oh well. I loved Simon, and obviously his shadow too. I loved how he was unapologetically himself, and how Cora loved him all along with all his crazy. Ah yes, I too love unapologetic murderers and abusers, and all their crazy. While I was writing up the script for this bit, I actually realised what a lot of these fans who wrote these reviews remind me of, and it's, you know, that horrific trend of people who are obsessed with serial killers and they idolise them somehow and they, like, fetishize them to some extent, and they're like, oh my god, he's so hot, and I'm gonna write a letter to this serial killer, and if only he'd fall in love with me, it would be different, because, like, I'm special, and he's so hot, and, like, I would totally be the only woman he didn't kill, you know? Reminds me of that. Anyway, I said I would end this video by running briefly through Dr. Romani's quiz question list of traits and characteristics of narcissistic abusers and seeing how many of the criteria Simon and his shadow check off. I know this has been a long video so far, this part is not going to be very long, don't worry, but thank you for sticking with me if you've made it this far. Thank you for putting up with me, I appreciate you so much. If you have liked this video, they're not normally this long, but I do in-depth book reviews and all sorts of stuff like this, and I have had a little bit of trouble recently, I guess, because YouTube removed one of my science videos for misinformation. I was debunking anti-mask propaganda, essentially, and they flagged it for misinformation because they thought my video was anti-mask when it wasn't. It was very much pro-mask. Since I had that issue with YouTube, I tried to appeal it a few times, and they said no, and then a few of my fans were like, oh, be careful, because, like, YouTube might end up suppressing your channel if you kick up too much of a fuss. And I was like, conspiracy theories, that won't happen. Don't be silly. But kind of, yeah. If you look at my analytics since all that happened, the amount of new people seeing my channel has dropped to about 1/3 of what it was before that happened. And so I kind of feel like there is a little bit of suppression going on there. It's more than just a normal up and down trend, and it's really worrying me a little bit, bothering me a little bit. Views from my existing subscribers, fine, normal, that's all the same. Engagement's still really good and all that sort of thing, but it's just my videos aren't really being pushed out to new people. So what I will say is that if you are new here and you're seeing one of my videos for the first time, it would be wonderful if you would subscribe, please. And it also really helps if you want to do things like share my videos on social media. It's great if you want to leave a comment because that really helps with engagement and helping the algorithm know that my videos are liked by people. Leaving a like helps as well. And if you do want to support my channel at all and help me keep making content despite YouTube being a little bit difficult sometimes, then I do have a Patreon where you can go and see some like exclusive photos that I've taken. I post all sorts of stuff of my dog Kyra and other photos of like nature and gigs and all sorts of stuff that I do like that. I often post script notes on there. I also have exclusive like stickers and photo and art prints that get sent out to my subscribers every 3 months and fun stuff like that. So, shameless bit of self-promotion out of the way. Let's have a look at this checklist. Like I say, this is from the book Should I Stay or Should I Go, which really, really helped me after I left my abuser. And that book helped me sort my head out a lot, put a lot of things into perspective, and honestly, I would say it helped save my life. I am very, very grateful for Dr. Romani and the work she does. Absolutely. So, let's take a look at this. Does Simon seem cold or unfeeling in the face of Cora's feeling or the feelings of other people, or does he seem to have difficulty understanding the feelings of other people constantly throughout the entire series? Does Simon talk about his life accomplishments and work in an exaggerated or larger-than-life way? For example, having an impossibly good job, how he is going to have the greatest of everything? Is your partner arrogant and convinced of his superiority over other people? Constantly. Remember his whole, I was going to be a world-famous artist thing. Yeah, and of course his whole, I should have the power to control the fair, not anyone else. Why does Cora get it and not me? So him. Completely him. Does Simon believe that he's entitled to special treatment in all areas of his life? Does he become angry when this special treatment is not accorded to him? Constantly. Look at how he kills people when he's asked to stick to the same rules as literally everyone else. Look at how he was trying to break the rules to turn Cora into one of his dolls in the first 2 books. He has an issue with authority, absolutely. Does Simon manipulate people and situations to get his needs met with little regard for the feelings of other people involved? Constantly. You just saw this video, right? Does Simon become intensely angry very quickly and usually out of proportion to the situation at hand? Again, constantly. Is Simon able to hand out criticism easily, but does he have a hard time hearing even the slightest feedback without becoming defensive and even angry? Again, clearly. Look at his interaction with any authority figure. And also look how he takes the mick out of the others constantly and puts them down and calls them names. But the minute Aaron gave him a jab of little ooh, do you have a crush on Cora? He literally ripped him to shreds. Is Simon frequently jealous of Cora's friendships, relationships, successes, and opportunities? Yes. He kept her away from other people for the first 3 books, and he was plotting to take Cora's power. Simple as that. Does Simon do bad things and not feel guilty about them, or even have any insight into the fact that these were not nice things to do? Yeah, constantly, along with his, it's just who I am, I'm never gonna change, stupid narrative. Isn't that right, baby? Does Simon need constant admiration and validation, such as compliments, awards, and honours? Does he seek it out? Yes. Does Simon regularly lie, leave out important details, or give you inconsistent information? Yes. Is Simon an expert showman, making a big show of everything he does? Yeah, he's the puppeteer. What I didn't talk about in this video is there's this whole scene where Cora watches one of his puppet shows and it's all very dramatic. There's the private puppet show he puts on for her. He's a showman. They're my puppet strings. Mwah. Does Simon regularly project his feelings onto Cora? For example, accusing her of being angry, but I feel like maybe he does this to some extent, but not a huge amount, actually. This is going to be my first no. This is not too bad with this. Is Simon greedy and materialistic? I'd say yeah. There was a whole scene that I didn't mention in this video where someone else in the fair got something. It was like a coffee maker or a dishwasher or something like that in their trailer, and Simon went outside and literally screamed at the sky for 4 hours until he got one too. Yeah. Is Simon emotionally cold and distant? Does he become disconnected particular times when you're experiencing or showing strong emotion? Yes! This is literally most of what his character is, isn't it, baby? Oh, right on the lips, thank you. Does Simon frequently second-guess Cora or doubt her to the point she feels like she's going crazy? Constantly. Is Simon cheap with his time or money? Is he a person who will only be generous when it serves his interests? Serving his interests, yes. I wouldn't say it's about money, but in terms of time and attention, yeah. He spends a lot of time alone and thinks most people aren't worth his effort, you know, that sort of thing. Does Simon regularly avoid taking responsibility, and is he quick to blame others for his mistakes? Constantly. Is Simon vain and absorbed with his appearance? Yes. He goes on and on about how hot he is and, ooh, I have style and all that sort of stuff. Is Simon controlling? Does he attempt to control Cora's behaviour? Does he appear almost obsessive and compulsive in his need for order and to control his environment and schedule? Yeah, like I say, in one of the books, I think it might be book 3, Simon literally plans out every moment of Cora's day, and he's like, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. Controlling. Are Simon's moods, behaviours, and lifestyle unpredictable and inconsistent? Again, you watched this video, right? Does Simon take advantage of Cora and other people on a regular basis? Yes. Like, even in just the last half of the book. Yes! Oh my god. Does Simon enjoy watching other people fail? Does he take glee in the idea that someone's life or business is not going well, especially when that person has typically done better than him? Constantly. Does Simon find it hard to be alone or spend time alone? Actually, this one's a no. Simon spends a lot of time alone before Cora gets to the circus, so I'll say no for this one. Does Simon have poor boundaries with other people? Does he maintain inappropriate relationships with friends and co-workers? I would say regularly killing your co-workers is probably poor boundaries. Maybe that's just me. Has Simon ever been sexually or emotionally unfaithful? Again, this one was actually a no. Props to him for that, I guess. Does Simon tune out when Cora's talking? Does he yawn, check his device, gets distracted, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, he was constantly zoning out and not listening to people he thought were lesser than him, which is pretty much everyone. Does Simon become vulnerable or sensitive at times of stress or when things are not going well? Yeah, look at his book 3 breakdown, his fracture, as he called it. Is Simon regularly neglectful or just not mindful of basic communication and courtesy? I think this one's obviously a yes. Does Simon frequently use his appearance or sexuality to get a lot of attention? Yes. Obviously, yes. So if for some reason you weren't convinced before, I think it is safe to say that the character of Simon Oates in the Harrow Faire book series is a raging narcissist and a narcissistic abuser. And I do not use this term lightly. He is absolutely abusive, he is vile, he is cruel. This does not deserve to be painted as a romantic love story. This book series is 100% a romanticization and glamorization of an abusive relationship, and for that reason I think it is incredibly dangerous. I don't get why these books are being sold. I don't get why they have so many positive reviews of people being like, oh my god, they're so adorable together, you're perfect. I think they're dangerous and vile, and that's why I'm making this video. I hope if you've managed to sit through this entire very long, very exhausting for me video, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you can take something away from this that helps you feel stronger, more empowered, and also helps you identify this kind of abuse in other people, maybe in potential partners that you have or had. I hope it helps keep people safe. I hope I can do some good with this. This was, like I said, an incredibly emotionally draining video for me to make. I have spent literally whole nights awake until like 5:30 in the morning, reading these books over and over, writing my script, working on all of this, and now today I've spent 7.5 hours filming. Yeah, it's been long, hasn't it, baby? It's been long. I had to refilm a whole section, I've had to empty out my memory cards constantly, I'm on my 4th camera battery. Oh, it's been tiring, hasn't it? But we're done. Now we just have editing to do. Oh, and at this point, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time, of your attention. I appreciate you so much. Like I say, I would love to hear your thoughts on this video and all the topics I've covered down in the comments below. If you can, it would be wonderful if you want to support my work over on Patreon or with a one-off donation over on PayPal, you can do as well. I have new merch out now if you'd like to check it out. I have these amazing beetle prints made from actual watercolour paintings that I painted myself. If you'd like to check out any of my other stuff, I have a website, racheloates.uk. It's full of photographs, art, poetry, cool makeup looks, all sorts of fun stuff like that. If you want to follow me on social media, Instagram is where I'm most active. And I think that's pretty much everything for now. Make sure you subscribe to check out my new poem that I've got coming out hopefully in the next couple of days. It is called Misery Symphony, and it touches on some of the topics I've actually covered in this video. If you also want to hear another one of my poems, which is about kind of dealing with... Basically, it's a poem about how having faced child abuse, it kind of colours your view and makes you a little more susceptible to other kinds of abuse and domestic violence. And it's quite a hard poem to listen to, but it was one that was quite cathartic for me to write and get my feelings out there, and it's one that I hope helps people. It's called Heroes, and if you'd like to watch that, I'll leave a link to it at the end of this video, probably on screen right now. So, I've rambled so much. Thank you for watching, thank you for your time, thank you for any comments you leave, and I will see you guys again very, very soon with a much shorter video than this. Can't even get my words out. Oh, I'm gonna go eat so much food now. I might order a curry.